2025 is here. My man, Zach Abraham, Chief Investment Officer, Bulwark Capital, is joining the program as he always does on these beautiful Fridays. All right, my man, Trump, not too far away from ascending to the throne. So, what are you looking forward to 2025?
Man, it's a mixed bag just because you got, like you and I have talked about, markets are way overheated. You got so many things that are overpriced. Having said that, like we've talked about before, there's a lot of stuff that's really underpriced. And I actually think that we're really set up for that stuff to do well. Um, what it looks like for the overall economy, it's really a mixed bag right now, Chad. One of the things that we're keeping an eye on that's got us a bit concerned is you're starting to see some stagflationary pressures build up, meaning you're seeing growth rates, even though they've been adjusted upwards for this year. Growth is it's not collapsing, but it's steadily going slower, and yet at the same time, it appears as though inflation is picking up again. Um, so, it's certainly too early to make a judgment, but that is always concerning because that signals a stagflationary environment, which is just no good for anybody. Um, and outside of that, I think I've got nothing but enthusiasm about so many of the practices and so many of the different things that they're talking about doing, whether it be with Doge or tax reform. And yet at the same time, I got a little bit freaked out today when Trump got up there and starts talking about renaming the Gulf of Mexico. And I'm sitting there going, Donald, I thought we fixed this, right? I thought stay mature. Let's stay on focus. We've got too many important things to do than to get in pissing matches with whoever the Canadian PM is going to be about making them part of America and renaming the bloody Gulf of Mexico. So I'm not beating up on him by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm just sitting there going, man, come on. We don't need to do this. We've already had 4 years of that nonsense. Stay on track. We got important stuff to do here. And I'm just hoping that he stays the way he's been for the last year and a half to 2 years, especially during the election. And I get worried about wasting. I just think we're at a pivotal time for this country. We have got wounds. The bleeding has to stop, right? Like
Yeah,
these wounds have got to get patched. We don't have four
absolutely.
more years, right?
No, no.
So I'm just hoping he stays on track. And then honestly, I think a lot of the issues that we're dealing with are pretty easy fixes. We've just had historically inept and incompetent leadership. And I think that, for much of Obama's term and certainly the last 4 years, that a lot of these fixes are relatively easy if we stay on track and if we stay focused. So I'm positive. I like a lot of things. We just need those folks that are taking over the helm to stay serious and stay focused.
Amen. Talking to Zach Abraham, Chief Investment Officer, Bulwark Capital. What do you think of the market is feeling as we head into, here we are, 2025. What's your gut sensing? Is it sit and wait to see how this thing plays out the first 100 days with Trump, or do you feel like there's always some there, but is there some other stuff that people aren't thinking about, and you guys always talk about risk management?
Yeah, I think there's tons of stuff. I will. In a lot of ways, it's gotten even better in the last month. If you are shopping for good companies at cheap prices, there are tons of them out there. The problem is that they're not the ones that anybody's talking about.
Yeah,
If you're following the Jim Cramer playbook of things, I now look, I could be 100% wrong. My gut feeling is that you've already started the big downdraft in a lot of that nonsensical stuff. Maybe I'm a little early on that call, but I think that you're going to see a lot of bloodshed and a lot of bloodletting in a lot of those ridiculous names. And I'm talking about names that are trading at 50, 60 times revenue, in some cases 120 times revenue.
I
Just
mean, isn't that
ridiculous.
crazy? Like you're seeing stuff. It's like you have no revenue, and yet you guys are valued at $14 trillion.
Yeah, it's just nonsensical. I mean, even a hot company like Palantir, great company, great software, they got hit the last couple days. But you were talking about $190 billion market cap on a company that makes $2.8 billion a year in revenue, not earnings, revenue. You're paying $200 billion for a company that does 2.8 billion in
That's
revenue.
insane.
It's just nuts. And everybody's like, it's a great company. And I'm like, guys, Apple's a really good company. Would you pay the equivalent of 15 trillion for their stock? No. And you look at Apple trading at 40 times earnings. That's ridiculous. So now the funny thing about it though is that a lot of that crazy valuation has just come from ETFs and exchange traded funds and passive investments, right? So if people keep pouring money into that stuff can continue to levitate. But I think the market has been giving us a tell. This is my opinion. Could be proven wrong very shortly. But I think it's been giving us a tell over the last month and a half, meaning a lot of things have been rallying. A lot of the usual suspects have been rallying. But if you go back and look at the Meg 7 stocks, Nvidia, Apple, Meta, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, they each keep taking turns breaking out, and then the breakouts fail. Okay, just the most recent one was Nvidia. Before that, it was Apple. Before that, it was Microsoft. They just keep taking turns and they keep getting shot. We were making a joke today on our show, just saying it's sort of like you see this group of dudes, pinned down behind a bunch of sandbags, and they keep sending a tester guy out there to see if the coast is clear. And then the guy just keeps getting smoked, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of the feeling you get. And that is kind of a classic topping sign. And so we'll see if that plays out. But I mean, you're starting to see it today. You had the Nasdaq down 2%. It was led by those types of names getting smacked down. And the thing I think people need to be aware of is this: you're in a dangerous environment, and the reason why I say it's dangerous is you're gonna see these things, not all of them, but maybe, but you're gonna see some of these things drop 20 or 30%, and you're gonna say to yourself, what's wrong? What am I missing? And
Nothing.
no, you're not missing anything. It's you drop 20 or 30%, and these things are still stupid expensive, meaning you can't make sense of it. And I think a lot of investors are about to get a lesson on the way cash flow impacts the price of equities,
Yeah.
right? And right now you just have a zero gravity environment where everybody's chasing prices. I heard Kramer out the other day talking about how he thinks it's a good idea for people to suck it up and buy Costco and Palantir here. And I just sat there. Well, funny enough, you know what one of the best performing portfolios on the entire street last year was?
What?
The inverse Kramer ETF. It crushed the market. It was up 38%, 40% last year, something like that. But you hear guys say that, and I'm just like, good God, guys. I know markets are about chasing the things that are moving and all, but you're really advocating people to go out and purchase a stock trading at 55 times revenue. I mean, come on.
With no
So
way in any way, shape, or form to bring home what you need to justify that.
no, and they're a great company. That's no knock on the underlying company, right? But it's sort of like a Honda Accord. Honda Accord's a great car. Okay, it doesn't mean I'm going to go out and pay 350 grand for one,
No.
right? And and
No.
and that's what's going on. And people go, why is that happening? And I go, because it's going up, right? This
Yeah.
is what happens at the end of every bubblish cycle: is that everybody throws risk out the window, and for good reason. They get tired of sitting there being disciplined, watching the idiots win. Well, just about the time the sober-minded folks cast their lots in with the idiots, that's about the time everybody's getting skinned. Now, we don't know if that's happening right now, but I think you could be seeing the beginning of that process right now.
His name's Zach Abraham, Chief Investment Officer, Bulwark Capital. People want to reach out to you and get that second opinion, get the risk review, especially now as 2025 is here. What do they do?
Yeah, no, pretty easy to find. Google Know Your Risk Radio, Know Your Risk Radio podcast. You can just go to bulwarkcapitalmanagement.com. And I think that this is going to be a story about risk this year, and not just the risk in losing money. It's also the risk in being underinvested in historically cheap, solid company. We own an LNG company right now. I don't want to take up any more of your time, but we
No,
own an
man.
LNG company right now that is right at the forefront of shipping liquid natural gas back and forth to Europe. Everybody knows, right? We're building new export facilities for liquid natural gas. That is happening, right? This company is absolutely crushing it with nat gas prices at $2.50 to $3, which is ridiculously low. They've got very limited debt on their balance sheets. they were buying back stock, but they've bought back so much stock that they're down to only 50 million shares outstanding. And they're paying a 12.5% dividend because they literally don't know what to do with the cash, right? That now is that stock rallying to beat all heck like it should? No. Why? Because nobody's interested in
It's
fundamentals.
not
But
sexy.
no, and that's why I'm pounding the table telling people risk isn't just about losses. And I do think that's coming for a lot of portfolios. But risk is also about missing out on generational investment opportunities because everybody's out there chasing nonsense. And that's the biggest risk I see. Meanwhile, we're looking at companies trading at 15 times earnings with clean balance sheets, paying 12% dividends. The deals are out there. You're just not going to find them on CNBC.
Nope. There you go. Zach Abraham, Chief Investment Officer. Love talking to you, brother. We'll do it again next week, man. Happy New Year.
Hey, thanks again for having me, Chad. Happy New Year to you too.
Investment advisory services offered through Trek Financial LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The opinions expressed in this program are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or on any specific security. Any references to performance of securities are thought to be materially accurate, and actual performance may differ. Investments involve risk and are not guaranteed. Past performance doesn't guarantee future results. Trek 24308.